I think one of my first impressions of Tony was that he really liked to argue about things with me. So during our freshman year, we would argue about a lot of different theological issues. Always friendly, but always argued.
Very knowledgeable about the Bible.
But I just didn't really know how to talk to him at first, and I always thought that I was being really, really annoying.
Inaccessible at first, maybe even now.
Chase is really friendly, and I remember that he's from Georgia. That was my first impression.
He looks like the guy from Wong Fu Productions.
He has a very characteristic smile that I think a lot of people really enjoy being around.
And so we introduced ourselves, and he said, "Oh, my name is Chase." And I said, "Oh, that's funny. You know, my roommate's name is Chase."
Chase is very manly. Dang it. Probably shouldn't have said that anyway.
I thought he would be a very good con man.
Lily was very loud. I met her when we were taking Math 21A together, freshman spring, and I was just surprised by how much energy she had.
I thought Lily's voice was one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
Lily is very wise.
I first met Winston way back in freshman year of high school. We both went to this math camp together. To be honest, I was really jealous of him. He was a lot more popular than I was.
How he did debate in high school and how he's really interested in ultimate frisbee, so I thought there's a lot of things in common about us.
I met Winston back in 7th grade, and he was just as zany he's as zany in college as he was then.
I had a very negative first impression of Jeremy Yang, because we were talking about something like musical, and I said something about violins, and he looked at me with a very judgmental glint in his eye.
I was a little intimidated by him.
He likes to sing a lot.
He was going on and on about his acapella tryouts.
Incredibly musically talented, super nice, very friendly.
He used to run away from me at church.
Jeremy's very brotherly, and he has a servant's heart.
I remember Deborah came in the second week, maybe it was a little after that, with a cast on. And we all asked her what had happened, and she'd given us the details, but she had a big smile on her face the whole time.
Even when she's going through bad times, she still tries to be joyful.
Beautiful, wide smile.
Excessively smiley.
Constantly smiling, constantly energetic, constantly happy.
So feminine.
Very pink, very bubbly.
Sharon and I went to Venice together, and so my first impressions are us. The first 3 days of Venice, we just sat, we walked all over Venice when we sat on the bayou.
Thoughtful?
Quiet but thoughtful.
She seemed really serious, but also just really nice.
Steph just reminded me of a little doll. She was super cute.
She was the only Wednesday frosh that came to Fall Retreat my freshman year.
Very friendly and outgoing.
Steph was a very motherly figure.
I found it really easy to interact with her. She was one of the first people I met in AACF and found it easy to talk to.
Met Amy in ballroom, so she's got some moves.
I loved Amy's accent.
I remember when I first heard Amy talk, I was trying so hard to place where her accent was from.
I just thought she was so eloquent.
Knew what was going on and had it together.
It's very get things done.
Puts all her effort into everything that she does.
I think my first impression of Matt was seeing him top naked.
He was in my Xbox class, so I thought he was pretty smart.
Me, Matt, Justin, and a few of their friends were playing a card game called Mao. The objective being that you basically arbitrarily make up rules. Matt was very good at that game.
Joy has a big heart, and I think I first realized that at freshman year Bible study on Tuesday when she was the first person to really open up about something that was hitting her.
I was really scared of her.
Super bubbly, super energetic.
Really energetic.
A leader.
Joy was actually one of the first people who welcomed me into AACF.
She also embodies joy, because, that's her name.
My first impression of Sharon was that she was really quiet and very serious.
Loud.
Very loud.
Loud.
I remember she laughed a lot and made weird noises.
I thought she was quite ferocious.
Small, dynamic, way too eager to punch me.
I remember when we were playing Convergence, she would not be able to converge with anyone, and that's Sharon's song.
Kevin was the first Asian American Christian I'd met in my year.
Incredibly well versed in gadgetry, computers, and many other things science tech related.
Smart.
Smart.
Ubiquitous.
We were all dirty, grimy, like dressed in trash bags. We like jump on board the bus that was going to take us to Harvard. And Kevin stands up in the back and he screams, "Chase, do you want to take a shower together when we get back?"
Mike at first was just really nice, and then he was really snarky.
I just thought he and his roommates were kind of sketch because they were looking at random pictures of people on Facebook.
My first impression of him was just remembering how when he walks, he bounces on his toes.
Oh, uni. She was the first person I ever danced with at a Harvard function.
It's very fabulous.
Really big hair.
A beautiful smile.
Diva.
Powerful.
Love that girl.
I don't actually remember meeting John Lee, but I think one of the funniest things that I remember about him was when Sebastian called him the evil man.
Oh, this is good. The first impression of John was when me, Justin, and Justin's parents were getting dinner, and John decided to show up 30 minutes late.
I'd heard a lot about him being trolling or whatever, but I think the first time I ever had a real conversation with him was during large group, maybe sophomore or junior year. And he just struck me with how open he was about his strugglings and sharing his faith with his roommate.
I thought Joseph was a bit dishonest, but he has proven me false.
Oh, slacker.
Baffling.
I felt like he could be a good politician with the way he talks and stuff.
We had a really long conversation at 2 a.m. in Mather one time, and I realized he's a thinker.
So David and I go way back. I think I first met him in 4th grade, and yeah, his eyes were really scary.
He had really big eyes.
Big eyes.
He seemed like he was blinking too much.
Big eyes.
Big eyes.
Big-eyed.
I was like, oh my gosh, he has big eyes.
My first memory of Helen Yang was at one of those meet and greets for AACF. I remember she was wearing a really bright polka dot shirt.
Very to the point.
Helen is very unique, very quirky, and I like it.
I think maybe it was a little awkward when I first met her, but she was so sweet, and she was in my freshman year entryway, and we got to pray a lot together, so I really appreciated her.
Very friendly.
Inquisitive.
First frosh study, and constantly mixing up each other's names.
Eunice was my frosh leader, and she was just very spiritual.
Definitely looked up to her a lot. Probably the first girl I called Nuna at Harvard.
So open, and she was one of the first people I met.
So I associate her with grabbing tea and catching up.
Helen Jing, really bubbly. Probably wearing something yellow when I first met her.
Helen Jing was just very sweet.
Sweet and really pretty.
Cute and sweet.
And I just remember her telling me that she was klutzy.
Helen's hair was so straight and so shiny.
Elena, very peaceful and kind.
Sweet and motherly.
Really, really sweet, really, really caring.
We were hanging out in a room in Weld talking about relationships.
And we just realized that we really clicked.
Caleb, very massive and kind of on the quieter, silent side, but a good man.
He was very quiet and silent and like a block of stone.
I actually started out being a bit nervous because he was very built.
When Gia and I went to our first UC rehearsal, I remember thinking, wow, she is so Americanized. And then a couple of rehearsals later, I mended my opinion.
Cute Korean girl from Korea.
Beatboxing and drumming.
Ball of creativity and energy.
Artsy and suave.
Girly.
My first impression of Ted Ann was actually playing StarCraft in the basement of the Science Center.
I remember when I met Ted, he was deciding between taking Math 25 or I guess 55.
Everyone thought he was Korean when they first met him.
Looking good.
Falling asleep in orchestra.
Ted taught me a little bit about how to win, but not win so big that everyone comes after you.
I met Eric Lin during pre-frosh weekend, and I remember thinking he was very Taiwanese. But then after I found out he had perfect pitch, we bonded over being able to just do nerdy music things and sight read music together.
Very musical and also very gentle.
Gooey.
A little bit hyper at times, but yeah, just a really nice guy.
My first impression of Justin was actually very funny. We had met each other the summer before coming to Harvard, and we were talking on Facebook a little bit in a group message, and he had said, "Oh my gosh, so many people in Holworthy FTW." And at that time, I didn't know what FTW was, anything other than F the world. So I talked to my little brother. I was like, "Who is this Justin kid? You know, he's talking with all these people he knows, and he seems so angry that he's rooming with them."
He ended up breaking one of my roommate's favorite toys.
He was in the dining hall gathering milk one morning, and decided that it would be a good idea to put the cup in upside down.
I remember him taking a broom or something and pretending that it was a sword.
A happy memory of AACF is our sophomore year, we planned the Thanksgiving dinner for the incoming freshmen. And I remember I was super stressed because I had been like the one who chose the recipes and like coordinated the logistics. So I was just really frustrated at everyone and really stressed out. But then after we served like all the 2013ers, like it was after when 2012 started eating the leftovers and washing up and cleaning. And it was a really happy moment because like all the things went well and everything settled down, and it was just really funny. It was like family, like. And then afterwards we just hung around and we were like throwing oranges at Justin and stuff.
I think the most outrageous memory is when we had Extravaganza the first time, and then Jeremy Yang completely destroyed Jeremy Lin's team by, I think, spinning around uncontrollably.
There was a pretty outrageous moment in sophomore year, winter retreat. It involved a very cold cabin, and at like 4 a.m., I remember that I woke up and I really wanted to kill someone because I thought I was actually dying from frostbite or something. And John Lee actually built a fire, and from that moment on, I knew he was a guy who I could rely on.
AACF has deeply impacted my life. It's probably the extracurricular activity that has influenced me the most in my 4 years at Harvard.
When I was growing up in high school, I went to church not very often at all, and basically, I didn't have a Christian community before I came to AACF, and that's just been so great for me.
I think coming into college, I was really worried that I wouldn't find a good fellowship, or that I would move away from my faith. And I think AACF had the foundation for that, and also had a good group of people that I've grown closer to over the years.
Really having a group of brothers and sisters in Christ that I can really go to and talk to, and have had so many great times, laughs, and just hanging out, but also people that I can turn to when things aren't going so great as well.
I think it was the first time that I really felt like I had people who I could tell anything to without being afraid about showing my weaknesses.
I think AACF has really shown me what the definition of family and community is. And yeah, I just really love everyone in AACF.
AACF has given me a place where I have found brothers and sisters who are really intelligently thinking about their relationship with God, and that's something that I think is very rare and very unique to Harvard. And
I think AACF has really encouraged me to think about my faith on a more intellectual level.
I think that there was this understanding that I had that if I was going to, kind of looking toward the future, looking toward my training, looking toward becoming a professional later on, my time at Harvard was this opportunity for me to become somebody who could later do something great for God. And AACF really challenged me and encouraged me. I think there's a great spirit of being active on this campus for God's mission, and it really helped teach me that just because I can possibly do great things for God later, doesn't stop me from doing things for Him now.
I think that AACF has really challenged me to see that people from all different backgrounds can love God. People from all different backgrounds can experience the gospel and be moved by the gospel. And that my perception of what a Christian should be like was so limited. And being in AACF has shown me that God loves every single one of those people in AACF. God loves every single one of the people here at Harvard.
I think I came into Harvard very like cynical about Asians, and particularly Asian Christians, and even more so Asian American or like Asian Christian fellowships. And I think AACF was a channel through which God challenged the judgments I had, the stereotypes I had, and really helped transform my heart.
I think from early on, it taught me how to learn to receive love. Not that I'm perfect at that or even good at that now, but I think it gave me a window or a glimpse into what Christian community could be.
I think AACF, with amazing people and amazing spiritual guidance, humbled me, but then it also raised me up in the midst of craziness at Harvard.
It's kind of like a married couple. There might be good times, there might be bad times, there might be times where there's conflicts, but in the end, there's nothing that can replace it.
It was the first community that I really felt like I was at home, and it's the community that I will continue to think about and pray for even after graduation.
My happiest memory of AACF was freshman year, when we used to have all these jam sessions, and I remember we would have a ton of work and there'd be a ton on our plate, but somebody would just send an email and say, oh hey, like let's meet in this music practice room and just sing. And so we'd all gather and there'd be like 10 of us, and we'd just sing for the rest of the night. And it was just incredible to kind of see the community beginning to form then.
My most outrageous memory of AACF has got to be the first pull apart.
Pull apart.
Pull apart.
If I had to pick one, it definitely would be freshman year pull apart.
I remember I was trying really hard to hold on to somebody, and then Joy Choi kind of just jumped on me and kicked me in the balls. And then she did it again, sophomore year.
Somebody decided to pull on me, attempting to pull me away from the pack, and managed to get
I think someone's pants came off.
my pants.
Awkward.
Now that I've seen it for 4 years, I really appreciate it as a bonding activity for us.
So I haven't really played pull apart since then.
It was freshman year, one of our first Frosh outings, and Frosh team had taken us out to Chinatown for dinner.
We went to dim sum at a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown.
The time the entire class went to Chinatown and started singing Disney songs.
The part that was so great about it was that at the end of dinner, we started singing Disney songs, and we just kept singing them and singing them.
And me being a person who has not really seen Disney movies growing up, I was pretty confused at the whole situation.
We were like super obnoxious, singing Disney songs on the T, and
I think starting with A Whole New World, and then moving on to like The Lion King, and it was time for us to head back to Harvard, but we just kept singing. So the entire T ride back to Harvard Square, our freshman class, and I think some of the Frosh leaders were singing Disney all the way back. And then we became dubbed the Disney class.
But in the end, I was just kind of weirded out that these are going to be the people that I'm going to be hanging out with for the next couple of years.
I think I would advise the underclassmen to embrace Harvard for what it is, including the challenges. I think there's a lot of difficult things about Harvard, but what I've come to realize is that I really appreciate the challenges that I had to face at Harvard because they humbled me.
obstacles should be viewed as growing experiences. If you find yourself having a hard time, God's way of saying that, He has something better in store for you.
I would encourage them to struggle with their faith, because if you don't think about it, eventually there will come a time when things that you've heard and just internalized on the surface just fall apart.
Don't be so externally motivated. I guess motivated to go to school so I can get a good grade, so I can get into a good law school. I was afraid of people looking down on me, thinking that I didn't study hard at Harvard.
Something that I regret is thinking too much of what others would think is good.
Really do things that you're passionate about and to learn for the sake of learning. I think a lot of times, especially in an environment like Harvard, people can get caught up with, the titles
all of like the resume boosting things. And I think it's important to make sure that you're doing things for the right reasons.
To not be afraid to try new things. I hear there's so many different activities, but also so many different places to go, different classes to take. And I think one of my most rewarding memories have been doing things that are maybe not traditional or so easy to do.
Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to step out of the boundaries that sometimes parents or Asian culture can give you.
All right, you know that lie Harvard says about when they're like, you have plenty of time to decide what you want to do. That's not actually true. You don't actually have that much time to decide what you want to do. So don't listen to them when people tell you that. The ideal future comes with a lot of preparation and commitment.
Prioritize your life and to be passionate. Figure out your passions and figure out what's important to you and really focus on those things.
Just be intentional with your time, I would say. You know, that doesn't mean you have to work all the time. That doesn't mean you have to spend all of your time bonding with other people, but just, you know, make sure you take some time to think every once in a while. You know, if I spent the remainder of my time at Harvard doing what I've been doing, am I going to be happy, or are there going to be things I wish I'd done afterwards?
Set the habits that you want to have for the rest of your life beginning in college. My advice would be to take care of each other, value the relationships you have here, and develop the disciplines that allow you to follow God for the rest of your life beginning now.
For the times that we feel like people aren't reaching out to us, for the times that we feel like community is lacking, and for the times that we feel lonely and want friendship and company, you be the change that you want to see.
You continue reaching out to different communities to enjoy the community in AACF, but also look elsewhere to draw other people into the wonderful friendships that they found here.
Or just, you know, going down to the dining hall and sitting with random people and talking to them.
Every single person here at Harvard has a story. And my advice to you is to get to know that story. Not to stop at what you see on the outside and what you see with appearances, but to really get down to who those people are.
Invest in relationships.
Always see the good in people.
Really, really cultivate your relationships with your peers. It's really the people who have made Harvard so great.